2 pink lines turned the most terrifying woman in the hospital into the only person I wanted to call. That is where this story starts. Not with the conference, not with the night that changed everything. It starts with me sitting on the bathroom floor of my apartment at 6 in the morning, holding a pregnancy test, staring at 2 lines that should not have been there, and the only name in my head being hers. Dr. Maya Chen. The woman who made residents cry in hallways. The woman who had never once smiled at me in the 18 months I had worked at Riverside General. The woman I had spent one night with 6 weeks ago and had not spoken to since. Let me back up. My name is Lily Park. I am a receptionist at the front desk of Riverside General Hospital. I check people in, I answer phones, I schedule follow-up appointments. I smile at everyone who walks through the door because that is my job, and I am good at it. I am not a surgeon. I am not a doctor. I am not anyone who belongs in the same world as Maya Chen. But I was there the night her world cracked open a little, and I was the one who happened to be standing in the right place when it did. The annual hospital staff conference was held at a hotel 2 hours away. It was 3 days of presentations and panels and dinners where nobody really wanted to be at the dinners. I had been sent to represent the administrative department. I was not thrilled about it. I had a cat at home and a book I was halfway through, and I would have much rather been doing those things. But I went. I sat through the presentations. I ate the food at the dinners and made conversation with people I barely knew. And on the second night, when the formal dinner ended and people drifted toward the hotel bar, I went too because I did not want to go back to my room and stare at the ceiling. That is when I saw her. Dr. Maya Chen at a hotel bar was a strange sight. She was always perfectly put together at work. White coat, dark hair pulled back, the kind of posture that said she had never once slouched in her life. But that night, she was in normal clothes, and she was drinking alone, and there was something about the way she was sitting that was different, something tight and tired. I almost turned around and went back to my room. I did not. I sat down 2 seats away from her at the bar because it was the only open spot. I ordered a drink. I looked straight ahead. I was not going to bother her. I knew better than to bother Dr. Maya Chen. Then she spoke first. She said she had seen me at the front desk. She said I was always there early and always the last one to leave, and she had noticed that, even though I probably thought nobody did. I did not know what to say to that, so I said something honest. I told her I liked knowing the building was running the way it was supposed to before my day started. She looked at me then. Really looked. Not the quick scan she gave everyone, checking for mistakes or inefficiencies. Something slower. She said that made sense to her. That was how it started. We talked for 2 hours, maybe 3. I stopped counting. She told me she had gotten a call that afternoon from her mother. Her mother was sick. Not critical, not yet, but the kind of sick that meant the path ahead was going to be hard. Maya had spent the evening going through her presentation notes and trying not to think about it, and not succeeding. She did not usually tell people things like that. I could tell by the way she said it, like the words were coming out before she had decided to let them. I told her I understood. My father had been sick 2 years ago. I told her about the nights I had spent in hospital waiting rooms on the other side of the counter, how different everything looked from a plastic chair in a hallway. She listened. She did not try to fix anything or offer solutions. She just listened. At some point, we moved from the bar to a quiet corner of the hotel lounge. At some point, the conversation got softer and more honest. At some point, she looked at me and said she had not talked to anyone like this in a long time. I told her I had not either. I do not need to say everything that happened next. What I will say is that it was gentle and it was honest, and it felt, in the middle of it, like the realest thing that had happened to me in years. She was not cold that night. She was careful. Careful in the way that people are when they are not used to letting anyone close and they are doing it anyway. In the morning, she was gone before I woke up. There was no note, no number, nothing. I went back to work the following Monday and everything was exactly the same. She walked past the front desk without looking at me. I answered phones and scheduled appointments and smiled at everyone who came through the door. She operated and ran her department and existed in her world while I existed in mine. I told myself it was fine. I told myself I had not expected anything different. I told myself a lot of things. 6 weeks later, I was sitting on my bathroom floor at 6 in the morning looking at 2 pink lines. I sat there for a long time. Then I picked up my phone. I did not think about it. I did not make a decision. My hands just did it. I went to the hospital directory, I found her name, and I called the number listed. She answered on the second ring. She said my name like she had been waiting for the call, like she already knew. I told her I was pregnant. I told her I had just taken the test. I told her I was sorry. I did not know why I was calling her. I did not expect anything. She could go back to her life and I would figure this out. I was not trying to make this her problem. She said stop. I stopped. She asked where I lived. I told her. She said stay there. I stayed there. She was at my apartment in 40 minutes. She must have left the moment we hung up. She was still in the clothes she had slept in. Her hair was down and messy, and she had no armor on at all. She looked like a person instead of a surgeon, and it made my chest hurt in a way I was not ready for. I let her in. We stood in my small living room not knowing where to put ourselves. She asked to see the test. I gave it to her. She looked at it for a long time. Then she set it down very carefully on my coffee table like it was something fragile. She said, "Okay." I said, "Okay, what?" She said, "Okay, this is real, and we are going to handle it. Together." I told her she did not have to do that. I told her I knew the night had been a one-time thing. I knew she had her career and her life, and I was not anyone she had planned to be connected to. She could walk out and I would not blame her, and I would not tell anyone, and she could just go back to being Dr. Maya Chen, who made residents cry in hallways. She looked at me with those dark eyes, and she said she was not leaving. She said it simply, no drama, no big speech, just that. I sat down on the couch because my legs were not doing their job properly. She sat next to me. She said she had thought about that night every day for 6 weeks. She said she had told herself it was not the right time, and she had too much going on, and she did not do things like that. She said she had been very convincing to herself. She said clearly that had not worked. I asked her what she meant. She said she meant that she had not stopped thinking about me, that she had passed the front desk 100 times and looked straight ahead on purpose, that it had cost her something every single time. I did not know what to say to that, so I did not say anything. She said we were going to figure this out. Not quickly, not perfectly, but she was not going anywhere. That was the beginning. The weeks after that were strange and careful and new. She came back the next evening, and the one after that. She would show up after her last surgery, still smelling like the hospital, and I would have tea made because I had learned she needed something warm after long shifts. She would sit on my couch and tell me about her day. I would listen. Sometimes I would talk about mine. Slowly, we started learning who the other person was when they were not performing for anyone. She was different at my apartment than she was at work. Still quiet, still precise, but the sharpness was gone. She laughed at things I said, quietly, like she was not totally sure she was allowed to. She asked questions and actually waited for the answers. She noticed small things: the plant I was bad at watering, the stack of books next to my bed, the way I always forgot to charge my phone until it was at 3%. She started coming to my prenatal appointments. The first one, she sat next to me in the waiting room in regular clothes, and I watched her look around at all the other people waiting. She was used to being the one on the other side, the one with the authority. Here she was just a person, just someone's partner sitting in a waiting room. She held my hand when they called my name. In the exam room, she was quiet while the doctor explained what was happening and what to expect. But after, in the elevator on the way down, she said she had 100 questions. She was not used to being the patient. She was not used to not knowing everything. I told her to ask them. She did. Every appointment after that, she came with a list written on her phone. The doctors and nurses learned quickly that Dr. Maya Chen attending her partner's appointments meant being prepared for follow-up questions. It became a thing. People talked about it. People talked about a lot of things. The hospital found out in pieces, the way hospitals always do. Someone saw us in the parking lot one morning. Someone else noticed she had started taking her lunch at a different time. A nurse from the surgical floor saw her hand on my back in the hallway and told everyone she knew by noon. I was nervous about it. The hospital was small in the ways that mattered. People had opinions. They looked at the front desk girl, and they looked at the head of surgery, and they did math that did not add up to them. Maya did not care at all. One afternoon during a shift, a doctor from internal medicine stopped at my desk and asked, in that careful way that was not actually careful, if it was true that Maya and I were together. I started to answer, and then Maya appeared at my shoulder from nowhere, in full white coat, and looked at that doctor with the look that made residents nervous. She said yes. And? The doctor said nothing and left very quickly. I looked at her. She looked at me. She raised one eyebrow like she was waiting for me to complain about her method. I did not complain. She put her hand on my desk for just a moment. Then she went back to her floor. That was when I knew something had shifted. Not just that she was staying, but that she was not hiding any of it. My mother was harder. My mother was traditional and careful, and she had a very specific picture in her head of how her daughter's life was supposed to go. When I told her I was pregnant, she went quiet in a way that was worse than if she had been loud about it. When I told her about Maya, she went quiet again, longer. She asked if this person was good to me. I told her yes. She asked how I knew. I told her that Maya showed up. That was the thing I kept coming back to. She showed up when I needed her to, and she kept showing up, and she never once made me feel like I was too much or too complicated or a problem to be solved. My mother said she wanted to meet her. Maya came to dinner with flowers and a bottle of wine, and she sat at my mother's kitchen table and answered every question my mother asked her directly. Not defensively, not with charm, just honestly. She said she knew this had not been planned. She said she knew my mother probably had concerns. She said she was not going to pretend to have everything figured out, but she was going to be there for me and for the baby, and she was going to keep being there. My mother was quiet for a while after that. Then she got up and made more food, and that was how my mother said she was okay with something. Maya caught my eye across the table. I smiled. She looked like she had just survived something much harder than a surgery. Later, in the car, she let out a long breath and said, "Your mother is terrifying." I said, "Yes. Welcome to my life." She laughed, the real kind. The months passed. My belly grew, and Maya's hands learned to rest on it naturally. She would sit behind me on the couch, and her hands would just find the place where the baby was and stay there. She did not make a big thing of it. It was just where her hands went. She read things. Books about pregnancy, and then books about babies, and then books about parenting. She asked other doctors questions, which for Maya Chen was remarkable because Maya Chen did not ask people for help easily. I heard from a nurse that she had pulled a pediatrician aside to ask about what to look for in the first year. The nurse said the pediatrician had looked like she was not sure she was having the conversation she was having. Maya was preparing, the way she prepared for surgeries. Thorough and serious and not willing to go in without knowing what she was walking into. I loved her for it, even though I had not said those words yet. The truth was, I had been in love with her for a while by then. I was not sure when it happened exactly. Maybe the morning she showed up at my apartment with messy hair and sat on my floor with me. Maybe the first appointment when she held my hand in the waiting room without being asked. Maybe the elevator, when she said she had 100 questions and for a moment she was not Dr. Maya Chen at all. She was just a person trying to figure out something she had never done before. I had not said it because I was not sure where she was. She was not a person who said things easily. She showed up and she stayed, and she did all the things. But words were harder for her. I understood that. I was not pushing. Then, one night, about 7 months in, she was sitting at my kitchen table, looking at a baby name book I had left out. I came in from the other room, and she did not look up right away. She was just sitting there with this look on her face that I had not seen before. Something open and wondering and a little scared. She looked up and saw me watching her, and she said she was falling in love with this baby already, and it was extremely inconvenient. I said, "Why inconvenient?" She said because she had spent her whole career deciding that needing things was a weakness, that letting things matter too much made you lose focus, that the best surgeons she knew kept their personal lives simple and separate. She set the book down. She said she did not think she could do that anymore. She did not think she wanted to. She looked at me and she said she was also falling in love with me, and had been for a while, and she was sorry it had taken her this long to say it out loud. I crossed the kitchen and I sat down next to her. I told her I was in love with her too, that I had been for months and I had been waiting for her to get there. She said she was sorry it took so long. I said it was okay. She got there. She took my hand and she looked at our fingers together, and she said she was not going to be perfect at this. She was going to work too much sometimes. She was going to go quiet when things got hard instead of talking. She was going to need me to call her back to herself sometimes. I told her I could do that. She said she knew. Then she said one more thing. She said the next morning could I come somewhere with her. She had something to do and she did not want to do it alone. I said yes. The next morning she took me to a small jewelry shop. She had already been there before, I could tell by the way she walked in and went straight to the case in the back. She asked them to bring out a ring she had on hold. It was simple. Gold band, small stone, not flashy. Exactly what I would have chosen. She held it and she looked at me and she said she was not doing this properly. She had no speech prepared. She had thought about preparing one and then decided it would come out wrong if she rehearsed it. She said she just knew that she did not want to be in a world where we were not building this together, the three of us, her and me, and the baby who had not arrived yet but was already somehow the center of everything. She said, would I let her be in this? Officially. permanently. I said yes. She put the ring on my finger and she breathed out like she had been holding that breath for a long time. We told the hospital the next week, not with an announcement. Maya just showed up to a department meeting with the ring on her finger, and when someone asked, she said she and Lily were engaged. Then she continued with the meeting agenda. That was very Maya. The nurses at the front desk screamed a little when I got in that morning, in a good way, the kind of screaming that happens when people have been waiting for news and they finally get it. Apparently, the whole hospital had been watching us for months and had opinions about when this was going to happen. I had not known I was the subject of that much attention. Maya had known. She had not mentioned it because she found hospital gossip mildly amusing and completely beneath her. But she had known. Our daughter was born on a Thursday morning. The labor was long and hard, and there were moments where I felt like I could not do it. And Maya was right there every single time, not with soft reassurances, but with real information and steady hands and a voice that said, "You are doing exactly what you need to do, and I am right here." That was who she was. Not soft words, real presence. When the baby came and they put her on my chest, I looked up at Maya. She was crying. Dr. Maya Chen, who made residents nervous in hallways. Dr. Maya Chen, who had the most controlled face I had ever seen on a person. Standing in that delivery room in her hospital clothes, with tears running down her face and making no attempt to stop them. She reached out and touched the baby's hand. Just one finger against the tiny fist. She said, "Hello, little one." Her voice broke on the last word. I reached out and took her other hand. She looked at me with her eyes still wet and she said, "Thank you." Just that. Thank you. I knew what she meant. Not just for the baby, for the phone call at 6 a.m, for letting her in, for sitting across from my mother at that kitchen table, for waiting while she learned how to say things out loud, for all of it. I told her, of course. She laughed and cried at the same time, and it was the least controlled I had ever seen her, and it was the most beautiful. We named our daughter Ren. The first weeks home were messy and sleepless, and nothing like the book said. Maya handled it the way she handled everything, with research and lists and a schedule that fell apart by day 3 because babies do not care about schedules. She had to let go of the control, and it was hard for her, and she was honest about that, which for Maya was already growth. She learned to rock Ren in the way that worked. She learned which cry meant hungry and which one meant something else. She learned that the pediatrician visits were a lot less scary when she was asking the questions instead of answering them. She went back to work after 8 weeks. She had negotiated her schedule so she could be home by a certain time most days. She did not always make it, but she tried in a way she had never tried for anything that was not surgery before. On the days she came home late, she would go straight to where Ren was sleeping and just stand there for a minute, not doing anything, just looking, like she was checking that it was all still real. I watched her do that once from the doorway, and I thought about the woman at the hotel bar with the tight, tired posture and no one to talk to. She was still that woman. She would always be partly that woman. But she was also this. A person standing in the doorway of a baby's room in the dark, soft in a way she had never let anyone see before, completely and quietly undone by something she had not known she was missing. People ask me sometimes what it is like to be with someone like Maya, someone who runs cold in public and warm in private, someone who says more with her hands than with her words, someone who had to learn, slowly and sometimes painfully, how to let love be something she did not have to manage. I tell them it is like living with two people, the surgeon and the woman underneath her. And the honor is in being the person who gets to see both. She still makes residents nervous. She is still the most controlled person in any room she walks into. She is still the kind of doctor who makes everyone around her sharper, just because she expects more. But she comes home. Every night she comes home. And some mornings I wake up before anyone else, and the apartment is quiet, and I can hear Ren breathing in the next room, and Maya is still asleep beside me. And I think about 2 pink lines on a bathroom floor, and the phone call I almost did not make. I am so glad I made it. I am so glad she answered. I am so glad she said stay there. Because she did not just stay there that night. She stayed for all of it. Every appointment, and every argument, and every 3 a.m. feeding, and every day I needed her to show up, and every day she needed me to remind her that she was allowed to need things. The cold alpha surgeon was not cold at all. She was just a woman who had been alone for a long time and had forgotten that did not have to be permanent. And I was the receptionist at the front desk who had spent years making sure everything ran smoothly for everyone else and had forgotten that she was also allowed to be someone someone chose. We chose each other. We keep choosing each other every single day. And Ren is almost 8 months old now, and she has her mother's dark eyes and my laugh, and she is the most important surgery Maya Chen has ever been a part of. Except that word is wrong, because it was not a surgery at all. It was the one thing in her life she could not control and could not plan for and could not prepare enough for. And it turned out to be the best thing she ever did. It turned out to be the best thing either of us ever did.